Hey, welcome back to another one of our projects. So tonight, or today, we'll see how this goes. Probably over a couple videos if I'm being honest. I'm a little up against the gun. I wasn't really going to record this, but all the same, I've got a problem where I need to bend some copper, effectively copper flashing, but it's going to ultimately wrap this water feature wall. And the way that I need to form it is I'm going to have a vertical surface that's going to bend 90 degrees, go 2 inches, and then bend another 90 degrees and go 2 inches. But then also I need that flat, once it's bent on one side, I need that to make a 90-degree turn. So I need, effectively like a finger brake or box and pan brake. I don't have one that will do what I need, and I certainly won't do it clean on copper, which is not inexpensive. So it seemed like a worthwhile project to take on real quick tonight. Is I'm gonna make my own custom brake. So I've got a couple pieces of 3/16 3-inch steel angle. I've got some weldable pins or hinges off of McMaster. Some springs, which will ultimately give us just a little bit of uplift. So when we back off our tension bolts, the brake jaw, I guess I would, not the jaw, but I don't know, the brake will raise up and not drag on the material. And just some 3/8/16 hardware that I'm just going to ultimately weld to a plate, and that's what our springs are ultimately going to live over. We're going to burn out some plate on our plasma table. That'll penetrate this or pierce through this, or penetrate, whatever you're into. And then we'll have a nut on there, we'll tighten it down. It's going to do a thing or it's going to fail miserably. That's frankly where we're at on this. I don't have a ton of time to record all this. I really just need to get it done, but it seemed like a worthwhile project to at least get some video on. Maybe it'll help you out. I'm just gonna kind of get a bunch of stuff done and I'll bring it back for updates. And when we finally or ultimately get to the point, which should be tomorrow, that we're trying to bend the copper, boy, it's either gonna be a success or a laughable failure. And an expensive one for me. So I'm hoping that it's a success. So yeah, that's really where we're at. We're gonna try to knock this out tonight. I also have a teaser, a copper bar. We're gonna ultimately whittle this into some brackets that are gonna hold a piece of glass. So you'll see that in a future episode. And you can laugh at how I'm gonna do that too, because not the right tool for the job, but we'll get the job done. Yeah, that's where we're at. Not gonna spend a ton of time recording. Let's get to work. Alright, so we've got our McMaster hinge. I think all I gotta do is line up the center line as best I can. As long as I'm square, as best I can be. That looks pretty good, so I'm going to tack that, hopefully without moving it. Old beefy son of a bitch. So I think it slides that way. So these hinges, or these pins, whatever you want to call them, slide off one side. So if I put the pins the same way, then this would slide off, and I don't think I want that. I believe I did this one so it slides that way, I think. So I think this one needs to go the opposing way, and then that'll lock it in. And if I'm wrong, you know, it's removable. So that's kind of cool. A little bit of a bonus. Alright. I'm just squaring it up as best I can. And it looks to be good enough. What I need. Flashed myself, that's hilarious. I need to get some more heat in that for anybody that can see it and knows, because that didn't really penetrate shit, but I think it'll hold it on, but we can test it, and if it does, and it does what I'm thinking, then I'll put some more heat in it. That's not right. That's going to roll the metal. It's not going to bend sharp. Because I need to notch all this bullshit and let those down in it. I didn't think of that. I need this, son of a bitch. I need this to be the center line of that pin where it pivots. I need to be right down in this crotch where I want this steel to pivot. That means I need to cut these off. I gotta notch this angle so that these can get let down in on each side. Did not think of that. So I'm gonna jump to that. I'll bring you back. All right, so I cut that out with the cutoff wheel. I don't have a bandsaw, but I will soon, because that was a dumbass thing to have to do. But I just want the center line of this pin to line up with that hinge point, pivot point, whatever you want to call it. So I'll French that in, if you will. And that looks accidentally pretty good, probably good enough. So I'll hold that in just so. I'll move it, I'll tack it, I'll realize it, I let it move, I'll cut it off, I'll do it again, and eventually I'll guess right. So, nothing left but to make that happen. Okay, here's a mock-up of a corner, and I'll spin the camera and show you once we get it back. This is a flat pattern as best as I think it's going to be. and why I specifically made this. So this piece is only, I don't even know, 16-ish, 14 inches wide, something like that. But in reality, out of copper, this is going to be like almost 8 feet. So I'm going to have a series of bends on the top in that 8-foot direction and one hem on the bottom in that 8-foot direction. And then I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 90-degree bends within that 8 feet roughly. And that's why I needed this. So I'm sure there's a million other ways to do it. I'm sure there's a tool out there that, you know, is exactly what you need or what the professionals would use. I don't have it. I don't have the money for it. I'm sure if I did, I'd have it. I promise you. I'm dumb like that. So I'm just going to do a sample with this and see if it's going to do what we think. So if it does, I'll go over this. It's all just kind of boldly tacked up right now. Nothing's finish welded in case I need to make some changes. And I kind of already see one problem with this anyways that I'm going to have to address, and I think it's the back leg of this angle is going to hit before the front leg of this angle just because of the geometry I have. So I think I'm going to end up needing to cut that down or grind it up or something so that this doesn't make contact before this front angle or front leg does. And I already clamped it down once. I'm recognizing that 1/8 inch plate. I almost did it out of quarter. I have some. I just thought, you know, I have a sheet of 1/8 on there. I thought it would be rigid enough, and it may be once I cut this down, but I think I'm going to end up having to weld some tubular gussets back just to make this rigid, so when I tighten it down, this doesn't flex up, and I think you'll see what I'm talking about here in just a minute. So I'm going to line it up on what I think is the line that I need to line up on. There, I'm going to run her down. I'm going to run this down. So that's clamped. You can see that's springy, but I think if I do some stiff backs, when I draw that down, that'll push down out here and hold tension. So for now, I'm just going to put some fat weight on it, and I'm going to bend that up. That's another, although this stock is so thin, this is just some coil flashing I had. I'm going to be using 26 gauge copper, so I don't think I'll have to go that far past 90. So this is slightly under, although it's so thin, I can manipulate this with my hand. So I'll do a nice 90 on that, or close enough to it. I'm going to swap over. And if this performs how I want it to and how I think it will, I have some ideas of bolting this on so that these could become interchangeable. I'll change this out to some nicer hardware, and I may even build a straight up cart that this would, you know, ultimately live on. Then again, I really need it for one job right now, but once you have a tool, you tend to use them. So I'm just lining up my marks, run it down. Just put my fat ass on it. And technically, these are the bends that I would do on a siding brake, which I've rented. I just have to go pick up. I certainly don't need to buy one of those for the one time that so far I've ever needed one. But in that same breath, I'm kind of dumb like that, so I'll probably own one of those too in the future. All right, I'll bring it out to my next mark. Cinch it down. I'm off the mark. That's more like it. Again, I think gussets will push this down. So we'll add those. Probably just added some 1x. Well. You know, again, I wouldn't normally be making these brakes on this thing. So I'm gonna screw it up, just proof of concept. Should so thin, I can make that work. So there's some brakes. I can tweak them by hand on this thin stuff. I'll let it come out. Or I won't, because you know, fuck it. What's it really matter? Although family friendly, it's probably not a bad idea. All right, so this is the profile that I'll have. That'll be somewhere around 8 feet long, a little more than 8 feet actually. Oh shit, like 10 feet. Oh, uh-oh. No, that works, never mind. So this will be the profile, and now I need to bend it here. So I don't have a box and pan brake that would do this when this is, you know, 8-ish feet long and really expensive copper. You know, this is gonna be a $400 piece of copper that I'm gonna bend, and I hopefully will bend it right one time and don't have to buy another $400 piece of copper. Wouldn't that be great? So what I needed was, let's bring you around. Whoa. So what I was thinking I need, what I'm pretty certain I do need, is just a nice straight edge, the whole width of this copper, or what will be copper, so that I don't get any weird rolling versus bending. I need sharp corners. And it looks like that's about where I'm gonna end up, right there. I'm gonna cinch this down. This will tuck in. Is that what I want, or do I want that out? I think I actually want that out, and I want this to tuck in behind it. Same here. So I'm gonna pull that out a little bit, because I want this leg to tuck in behind it, and I'm gonna do the same thing. I want the miter, or I want it to appear to be a miter on top once this is formed. So I'm gonna pull this out so that this leg will tuck in behind it. Put some weight on it. Let's just learn together. Well, so there's some scratches in there that you'll see, and I expected that. My plan is honestly just to cover this whole thing in masking tape, which will give me, I think, somewhat of a slick surface so that this doesn't transfer and leave marks in the copper. I mean, it's obviously far from a 90, clearly, but it's a nice, clean, crisp line, and it's thin enough stock that I can obviously manipulate that and get to a 90. And then this will be my top. So let's bring it over here and just see if we accidentally did something right for once in our lives. So ultimately, this whole piece here is going to get clad in copper. And what I'm realizing right now is I'm gonna have to do one continuous piece, bend it around here and back. And in the back, this is gonna be up against the wall. You'll never really see it. So I'll still fully cover it, but I think I'm gonna do a separate piece for the back. And I'll have a vertical seam that I'll rivet shut. I've got some copper rivets. So ultimately, this will tuck. Cut that down a little bit. Oh, lesson learned there. Made it too short. Glad I did that not with copper. Some weld in there that I'll have to trim out for. But, I mean, I'm just gonna be honest. Proof of concept is there. And I feel pretty good about that. I can make that look pretty incredible. I think the customer is going to be happy. I think that's all very, very workable. I'm already seeing where I need to clear this out for some weld that's built up in there that I need. So that's not a big deal. I'm going to rivet it on the inside here with copper rivets. The bottom I was just going to let lap, but I certainly made this too short, so I'll have to make this taller. How did I make it too short? Might just be where I indexed it. (16 1/8), and I made it 15 7/8. I think that's honestly where I index my brake line. It is too. I don't think you'll ever see that. No, you won't. So what I'm trying to say is the line I scribed is a solid heavy 16th down this lip. So I know that I need to index this out a little further. And I suspect I got that top line, my mark relative to the bend, pretty close, but I do need to dial that in. So I'm gonna bend up. I'm not gonna go buy a whole nother freaking roll of this. I'm gonna bend up so many samples and make marks and do my diligence and get everything dialed in before I start touching copper at all. At the end of the day, man, is that encouraging? Because I'll tell you what, I've been stressing this part. And ultimately everything you see, so this whole thing's gonna be wrapped in copper. There's gonna be a tray here, it's off camera, that's gonna hold some like washed gravel, round rocks. The water guys handle that. I'm not 100% sure what they're called. And then there'll be a piece of glass on this, water trickling down it, through the rocks, through the grate, into a tank, recirculation pump drives it back up top, rinse and repeat, no pun intended. So I've got to clad this in copper because you're going to see that through the glass. I've got to clad these verticals in copper, but that's just going to be a C channel. It's going to slide over it like this and have a long leg here. So when the glass goes on, it'll look like it's full copper. That should be, well, that one I think is the easiest, obviously. Channel that will just go over it. This is going to have to get notched around, and there'll be a little goofiness there, but my intent is to, well, you'll see it. I'm not going to talk about that too much. You'll see what I do. I'll take some video of that. But, boy, you know, I know it doesn't look well, but I promise you in real life here, this is a super encouraging moment for me that I'm going to be able to make that look good and wrap that all in copper. And it's going to be cool as hell. All right, so in closing for this, here's my, let's get rid of the stand, sorry y'all. Here's my offset brake. So, you know, when you need something, sometimes you just got to get a little creative. Obviously, it has no adjustability, so it's pretty much made for one gauge, if you will. That'll come up, does its thing. You know, I'm limited to there, so I can't bend too far past 90. Again, I mean, I'll show it just because it might help somebody. I'm gonna fill that with weld. I'm gonna fill this side with weld. If I had a bandsaw, that would have been much cleaner, and if I cared, it would have been much cleaner. You know, just tacked a 3/8/16 bolt, springs from McMaster. I have a nut for now. Like I said, I'll get a handle. I was gonna countersink all these, screw this down. Doesn't need to be countersunk though, because nothing's ever gonna be passing over it. So it's outside of any bend capacity I would have. So that could just get some simple panhead screws, screw it down to a wood bench, call it good. These McMaster hinges, it's horrible light. Here's one better light. I think they were like $8 or $9 a piece. I got 4 of those. And you know, these are the springs that I went with. Off McMaster as well. Nothing fancy, I just guessed at the rating and you know, got lucky because that's about perfect. So again, I'm gonna have to cut this leg down so that it doesn't make contact before the front leg. And I think I'm just gonna weld some 1x1 tube on an angle to act as a gusset. A couple stitch welds here, here, and back here at the hinge point. So that will be a rigid stiff back. So when I draw this down with the hardware, it'll transfer that force out to that point and give me good tight clamping pressure. So, you know, lesson learned there. And or probably you could have made this out of quarter and it would be pretty damn rigid. These, I have a thought that I could make, you know, weld tabs on this right behind here, have a hole, and be able to bolt on different lengths. Yeah, I don't know. I might be making something way more elaborate than I need for what it is too. But that's where we're at. That's where we're gonna cut it off for tonight. That's built. Talk to y'all later.